Hey, how's it going? How you doing? I'm supposed to say how you doing. Welcome to Garden Fork Radio. It's Eclectic DIY. Today, I want to talk about invasive weeds, a really nasty bee swarm, and what's third? A little update on the soap, Eric's soap obsession. Too long don't read, TLDR. That's what that means, by the way, and you see that. I'm not the only one who's a soap information gatherer. Let's just politely call it that. Okay? Have not been up to the little house here in the woods for a while. There's just work and family stuff keeping me away from here. Drove up and walked into the yard with the knucklehead Labradors, only to find a ton of invasive weeds, which I didn't realize were there, 2 weeks ago? And boom. And if you've listened to the show at all, or me in my world, I'm trying to simplify the weekend, not make more work for myself. And now I'm like, I just don't want this. I don't want weeds in my yard. Erin from The Impatient Gardener is yelling back at the podcast now. She has an amazing garden. You should just go The Impatient Gardener on YouTube, okay? If you want to see the smartest person in the world, go watch Erin. If you want less than smart, you're here. You might as well listen for another 20 minutes. So yeah, and also this kind of chickpea pasta, if I have enough brains to remember to talk about that. I got a different mouse, by the way. Let me just type in pasta. Okay, no, I didn't do the A. Where's the A? Hold on. ASTA. I'm back. Okay. Autocorrect. Don't you let autocorrect? So yeah, I'm in the yard, and we have a problem with garlic mustard. I have watched it migrate through. Like 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, there was no garlic mustard in our town, and it just creeps up the roadways. And, I'm trying to be very proactive about it. Actually, in Erin's town, they have a garlic mustard cleanup day. You have to pull it and get the roots out, and you have to throw it into a trash bag. Do not just sit it, because it will still seed. I've tossed aside, like a garlic mustard plant, and the flowers turn upward and they get pollinated and go to seed, and they burst their seeds because they have a bigger root, and all that starch in the root turns into energy, sugar, I think. Someone's going to correct me on that. And yeah, so that's the short end of it. The bigger problem with garlic mustard, I'm starting to peek out my meters here, so I'm just going to move this back a little bit, moving the microphone back. It is allelopathic. I'm still perking the meters. So that means that it makes the soil conducive to its roots and not other plants' roots. It crowds out native plants and trees, and it creates a monoculture. In other words, just a giant area of one plant, being the garlic mustard weed, and then plants, animals, and insects that depend on those native plants die. So you don't have your oak trees or your maple trees growing anymore because the allelopathic root system thing is making it difficult for those to grow. So yeah, it's just not a good thing. And I see it along the sides of the roads here. I have a friend of mine who is a farmer. He's a grass farmer, kind of like that famous internet guy, that Amos. I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, so he grows a lot of hay and also barley for the local microbrewery. He had said to me, and again, I'm not an expert, I'm hearing this secondhand, but if you mow it down enough, you will eventually kill it. I have found if I cut it, the bud, it flowers almost on the ground level and tries to still put out some seed. So I was thinking about this one area I could weed whack every week and weed whack it into the ground, just just beat the beat the weed whacker into the ground and whack the heck out of it. I don't know if that'll work. My other thought, which I'm making a video about, if I can get out of the basement today, is I have a very large area and cover it with a tarp. And it's flowered, but I don't think it's been pollinated. Just flowers are just coming out now. It's ideal if you do this before that. But I have, Harbor, every time I go to Harbor Freight, I buy a tarp, don't you? Yeah. So you're like me. And I'm going to see if that works as well. As far as the weed whacking, it has a second flush of growth, from what I understand. And it is a 2-year, it's a biannual, is that right? It has 2 years of growth. It first comes up as what's called a floret, I believe. And it looks like this tiny innocuous green leaf thing, which I can recognize now. And then the second year, it shoots up. It can shoot up higher than a lot of the plants growing there. And it has a very telltale flower. And then it also can look half dead. If it's near a log or a down tree, it's not getting a lot of light, it can still put off seeds. And then the seed pods are very thin and narrow and incredibly brittle. And if you try and pull it up after it's gone to seed, you can just send all the seeds scattering all over the place. So you have to be really careful. Maybe a shop vac. You should have a shop vac and stick it over the top of it and suck it into the shop vac. I just thought of that. That's the beauty of your own podcast, or the bane of your own podcast. Hey, real quick, I have a new link for the Garden Fork store on Amazon. If you happen to be shopping on Amazon, appreciate it if you use my link to go to Amazon and start your shopping. The link will be in the show notes here. It's a universal link. I can explain it later in the podcast sometime. Thank you. So garlic musk has been with us for a couple of years. The other one that I have seen slowly creep into my yard is called narrow leaf bittercress. There are some other names for it, but it is, again, aggressive. I think it has a 2-year, let me see. I don't know. I actually put all the information on my iPad instead of on the Big Mac, and so I don't have to click the mouse. Aren't you happy I don't have to do that this time? But anyway, it's an invasive species. It's on the controlled noxious weed list, meaning you must prevent the spread of this plant. It's found in forested areas and along rivers. It prefers parched shade and moist soil, but is tolerant of a variety of conditions. It's a relatively new invader to North America. Impacts are still being evaluated. It outcompetes desirable vegetation, which may decrease habitat quality and species diversity. So yeah, interesting. It has a rosette. I thought it was yarrow when it first came up, because yarrow has a similar small leaf pattern. But this, again, the seed pods can burst open, and it says can shoot seed several feet from the mother plant. The single plant can create up to 5,000 seeds dispersed a short distance. It has a taproot, and yeah, you got to pull it up. So the area I'm looking at that for the tarp thing has the narrowleaf bittercress and the catchweed, which I'm about to talk about next. So I'm thinking about that. The bittercress seems to be the least bad of all of the three I'm going to talk about. But if you can one plant spread out 5,000 seeds, well, that's not good. I mean, unless it's sunflowers. I wonder if someone thinks sunflowers are invasive. Don't get me started. So the next one I saw come into my yard, and I didn't do anything about it. It came in. My neighbor gave me a blueberry bush, and I noticed a little bit of these weedy things with kind of a star-like leaf pattern. And it also looks like a daisy leaf pattern without the center. Does that make sense? A bunch of petals sticking out like a sunburst around a stem. And I've heard it called catchweed bedstraw. It has some other names. Let's see here. There's an AI here. Cleavers, sticky willy, clivers, gripgrass, and Velcro plant. The stem is square in cross section. It can grow up to 6 feet long, which I have seen. The leaves are in a whorled arrangement, 6 to 8 narrow leaves per whorl. The fruit are these little burrs with hooked hairs. It's those little green ball burrs that get in your dog's coat when they come home. That's what this thing is. It was actually used for mattresses. Huh. The roots can be used to create a permanent red dye? Wow. In a traditional medicine, it has been used as a diuretic and anti-inflammatory. Hand pulling or hoeing, especially when the soil is damp, to get rid of it, or pre-emergent or post-emergent herbicides. A pre-emergent herbicide is like corn gluten. A post-emergent is probably what they're talking about is glyphosate, which in a very targeted way, I'm okay with. Like poison ivy, that's just bad in the yard. Anyway, I'm sure there's someone yelling back at me now. So I've got these 3 in the yard, and I was like, okay, it's kind of rainy and cold right now, but I'm hoping it's going to warm up, and I will make a video about essentially what I'm talking about here. Because I watch YouTube all the time, and there's people I really like to watch. And when they haven't had a video for a while, I'm like, why aren't they even making a video? And I always think that I have to make a video with an actual beginning, middle, and end. And I've realized that I myself, I would just rather see a video from someone that I like to watch their videos rather than a big production about, okay, today we're going to make this project, and here's my welder, and here's my wood, and whatever. If you want to just walk around the yard and show me your weeds, I'll probably watch that. There's some people I watch everything they put out. Some people I don't. But I'm sure that's kind of like everything in our world here. I think, yeah. All right, so catchweed bedstraw, narrowleaf bittersweet, and garlic mustard. You have thoughts on this, I know. So it's gardenfork87@gmail.com. If you are a patron, you can message me in the Patreon app. Yeah, that's cool. I had a huge bee swarm. I posted a picture of it on my Patreon stream or page or whatever. Patreon is becoming essentially a social media platform like Facebook, except the algorithm favors creators and not clickbait, perhaps incorrect information. I'll just politely say that so I don't get sued. But anyway, so yeah, I was somewhere in Brooklyn, and my friend Brian, who I have the bees with, he texts me. He's at work in Manhattan, and he says, my neighbors just sent me this video. It is an enormous swarm in a tree in Brian's backyard. And I'm like, oh. And I said, look, there's not much we can do about it. They're in a tree 30 or 40 feet up in the air. I'm not going up there. And by the time I got out there, it's like 30 blocks from me. The swarm had dispersed. It had left the backyard. It probably went into Greenwood Cemetery. That's what I'm thinking. But that was a huge amount of bees to lose. And our hive that we have over winter 2 years now, which I'm very happy about, it was bursting at the seams this spring. And I thought by requeening it, I could dissuade them from swarming, but I requeened too late. And then I also thought that I had put out some, essentially these plastic nucleus boxes that you can buy from betterbee.com. I thought that would be sufficient for a swarm trap. And my friend Nick, who runs the New York Bee Club, diplomatically told me that's not nearly big enough. And I realized that after looking at this swarm, I'm like, they're not going to want to come in this small nuke. So I'm just annoyed because I've been trying to do everything right, and then it doesn't go right. So then I went over to Brian's. We have, it's great. We have a cup of tea. We might have a little lunch. It's a great way to get together with one of your friends because you have this project, this ongoing project, this soul-crushing hobby, as I call it. And I just looked in his backyard because his dog, Roxy, who's a great little pup, wanted to go in the backyard. I think she's part bird dog or part squirrel dog or something. Maybe Jack Russell. And then I'm like, that's an awful lot of honeybees to be flying around in the yard. You can find bees that are foraging or looking for stuff. And then I was like, that's another swarm. And hives it's called throwing off a swarm. They can throw off another swarm. And so I went up on the roof to get a better view, and you could see a small cluster in the same tree, maybe even in the same place, because the other queen's pheromone was maybe there. And Brian's like, what are we going to do? I said, we can't do anything. So I put out larger bait boxes. I had some spare brood boxes with frames, and we kludged together a little hive thing. And so that it's 2 medium deeps with frames in the top one, an empty bottom one with an entrance at the bottom and a little plywood top. They did not take advantage of that. A second swarm from your hive more than likely has a virgin queen, and it's a smaller swarm. Some hives just throw off multiple swarms in a year. So at this point, we've severely diminished our amount of workers to collect nectar. The big nectar flow is linden trees in Brooklyn, and that is about to start to happen. People say it's like June 1st, but I'm seeing some of the linden trees in my neighborhood. The little flower pods are starting to come out. So you can't put in a new queen to raise work. The workers take, was it 16 days, 18 days? It's a while. And the flip side of that is we have a new hive that we got from a package that we bought from Nick at Astor Apiaries, and they're doing really well. They drew out comb in 2 mediums. We don't use deeps, I use mediums. And they had drained the sugar feeder that I put on top. So I took I had some frames that I had extracted, honey frames that I'd been storing. I put those in a box with some blank frames. I put a queen excluder on top of the new hive. It has 2 boxes of booming brood. I put this honey box on the top, a honey super it's called, put the top back on, and that's probably going to be our main crop. Will they get a lot of nectar? It just, it depends on so many things. But I think we'll at least get enough hot honey for ourselves. It's not like I'm going to be walking around handing out jars of honey to everybody this year. Some years you can do that, and it's kind of fun because everyone's eyes get real big. They're like, oh, wow. My iPad is about to die, so I want to get this one last thing I wanted to talk about. I've started to just watch everything I like to watch under one account in YouTube, thinking, because at the bottom of my landing page on the app, I guess I use it on the iPad, the bottom gets a little redundant, like it's full of Time Team videos, because I like to watch that, and they have hundreds of videos, but it also just pops up stuff that I think is pretty neat. And one of them was this chef guy that I'd never seen before, but it was like very approachable, very chill. And his channel is called Giovanni Siracusa. Giovanni, and then Sira, Siracusa. And he's got how to make pasta and chickpeas, the $5 Italian dinner. And I made it last night. It didn't come out exactly like his, but it was pretty close. And I'm like, this is wicked simple. It's 2 cans of chickpeas, some garlic, ideally some fresh rosemary, and a box of pasta, like a 1-pound box, ideally smaller pasta shapes, because I used bigger ones and it didn't exactly work. It's called How to Make Pasta and Chickpeas, the $5 Italian Dinner, Giovanni Siracusa. And you rinse the chickpeas out of the, they're canned chickpeas. You might be able to just put the peas in with the aquafaba, which is the liquid broth that comes in a canned one. And then you cook the chickpeas some more to make them softer. Then you put in a big blob, like probably 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, which you can buy in a jar with a lid on it now, by the way, which I really like. And then you take your, what's that called? Stick blender. You scoop out like 2 cups of the chickpeas and that stuff. And then you mash it up with the stick blender, put it back in. You throw in, with the chickpeas, you put in 6 cups of really hot water, because that's what they're cooking in. And then you thicken it with this mashed up chickpeas. Then you throw in the pasta and you cook that for 7 minutes, whatever. And boom, you're done. I put some Parmesan on the top. But it's wicked simple, and you don't have to put the cheese on, and then it's vegan. The chickpeas provide the creaminess. I love chickpeas. And the tomato paste gives it that kind of neat, deep flavor. If you have the rosemary, it's even better. But yeah, what the heck, You could, I'm actually going to try it with the chickpea pasta. It's called Bana. Is that what it's called? It's in the red box. I've also seen some companies come out with like copycat chickpea pasta, but I like the original there. So yeah, go check that out. All right. The soap thing's going to have to wait, because I'm running out of brain power here. 20 minutes in. Poor Eric. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Swarms. Did you try this pasta recipe? Do you have these weeds? Will just throwing a tarp on them for like a month kill it all? I don't know. All right, go out, do cool stuff. Make it a great day. I'll see you. Garden Fork Radio is produced by Garden Fork Media LLC in Brooklyn, New York. The music in the show is licensed from audioblocks.com and uniquetracks.com.